So this video will be a bit different. In my typical videos, I just give you straightforward advice that you can just take and implement, like ad account structures or certain creatives that you can run. But in this video, I wanted to share how I actually got to this point that I can explain all of this and what will actually help you get long-term to a position where you can scale your brand to 1 million per month, 10 million per month and beyond. And basically how you can learn all that stuff by yourself. So I'll give you my top 5 reads and books from which I actually learned what I know and from where I have all my theoretical bases. And once you go through them and study them too, you'll be just ahead of like 99% of your competition. So the first book is Scientific Advertising. That is more of a book for beginners. The author talks about how to make sure that your strategy is actually data-driven, that it's rational, that there's iterative improvement, and how fundamentally think about buyers' psychology, how to convince them to buy, and what to appeal to in your sales texts, in your ads, and in your overall brand messaging. If you didn't ever hit 6-figure months yet, I highly recommend reading this book because this will equip you with some fundamentals that you will use along your entire journey. Now, the second one, and that is really my favorite read for any revenue level that you're at, because the more often I read it, I actually keep learning new things because I grow, and then the things that I actually realize and learn from it also change based on how far I actually comprehend things. Because depending on where you are and how deeply you understand things, you'll of course hear, understand, or read different things out of the same sentence. And that book is Breakthrough Advertising. So I love this book so much because this really equips you with fundamental knowledge that you need to know about the market, even about the economy, about desires, about how to channel desires into products, about fundamental things like awareness stages and sophistication stages that you need to align your messaging with your audience to resonate the most you can. And it also really teaches you about the right mindset and about how to approach things, about how to think about headlines, structures, and really giving you like a framework to apply to your advertisement depending on where your audience is and what they want to hear. Now the third one I recommend is Cashvertising Online. And this one is a great complementary read because this goes more into the psychology of people and their psychological triggers that actually would trigger a buying decision. You've maybe heard that there are things out there that are called cognitive biases, and those are basically heuristics of the human brain that were created over a long time through evolution that basically say, okay, if this happens, act like this. If this happens, act like this. And when you know exactly those triggers of the human brain, you also know where to pull to actually trigger an action. Everyone knows the most famous ones like urgency bias and scarcity bias, which drives people to buy, but there are way more of them, like the bandwagon effect. This is why it makes sense to include a lot of social proof in your ads, or the sunken cost fallacy, and many more. And those are kind of just hints to what you actually want to mention in your copy to almost make your audience like irrationally want your product and just make them want to buy it. Now, because this is so powerful, the next read is actually not a book, but Cognitive Biases straight from Wikipedia. I really recommend going through this. So one thing is reading the book and reading how someone applies it to advertising, but the other thing is always to just take your brain and actually apply it to advertising yourself, because you will think of things that other people don't think of, and that will really create innovation and new things in your space that maybe no one has done yet, but that will lead to many successful sales copies, ads, and so on. So if you open this diagram, you will basically see a big, graph with all the cognitive biases that have been discovered to this day. Not all of them are applicable to advertisement, but all of them are applicable to life. And you can also find new creative ways of actually integrating those cognitive biases into your ads. So for example, here's one that's called the IKEA effect. You can click on it. The IKEA effect is a cognitive bias in which consumers place a disproportionately high value on products they partially created themselves, right? So a study found that subjects were willing to pay 63% more for furniture they had assembled themselves than for equivalent pre-assembled items. And this is very interesting because this means you can basically let your customers customize things, or even actually let them create the product that they buy to a certain degree by themselves. One example is with a brand that I worked with. They create paint by numbers kits. So basically you just take color and just fill out certain areas. The areas are like pre-enumerated and each number is connected to a color. Then you just color those areas and you get like artwork or a photo. And the way they have been using this effect is that they didn't just say, okay, we have predetermined artworks, but you can actually send us a photo that has, of course, sentimental value. That might be a family photo, a couple photo, or whatever, right? A photo of a pet. And we will take this photo, make a paint by numbers kit from it, and send it to you with the colors, with the numbers, with everything. And then this becomes like not just a cold, rational product, but something sentimental that the customer actually also built to a certain degree by themselves, because they sent the photo, and based on this, the whole thing was actually created. And obviously for that, they were able to charge a higher price than for the other artworks that are predetermined. And this is just one example of how you can use one of those effects. You can really use all of them. Here's another one, zero risk bias. Of course, like you want to have a guarantee that your customer will achieve a certain result, and if not, they get their money back, or they even get compensated, or whatever else. So many different things. I really recommend going through each of them, and you'll find many innovative and creative ways of how you can actually apply that to your brand and to your advertising. Now, the last read I recommend is Discourses by Epictetus, and that might be a bit surprising because yes, it doesn't have to do anything with advertisement, but it is definitely a core component to actually hitting your revenue goal and building the company you want to build. Because on your journey, you will have many ups and downs, you will have many critical situations, you will have potentially many business crises. And this book really teaches you stoicism and to just accept things as they are. And instead of being agitated about it, just taking rational decisions and working on what you can actually improve and change. So those were the top 5 reads I really recommend if you want to build a strong theoretical basis yourself. And once you apply this to your Facebook ads and actually experiment implementing it, you will learn so much more than if you just do it kind of blindfolded without any theoretical basis and just learning from your own experience. Hope it was helpful. If you want more videos like this video, keep scaling. Bye.